think like how I actually found you too was a TikTok that I saw, um, where you said something about like your past and when you had been sleeping around with all these guys and how like you think when you get married all of it goes away, but like that stuff doesn't just go away. And I don't remember exactly how you worded it, but it
Yeah.
was like profound for me, and I just remember like feeling so emotional and wishing that I could have went back and told my teenage self, um, basically that, like, one day you're going to look your husband in the eyes,
Hmm.
and it's not that I have to tell him, but it's just on my heart. I want to be in order to be fully loved, you have to be fully known.
Hmm.
And so, knowing now, that I do tell him everything, it's like one day you're gonna look in your husband's eyes and have to tell him everything.
Hmm.
And if I would have thought about that or really conceptualized that, I might not have given my body away as much as I did.
Hmm.
But then going to your testimony, like, you were told those things, but, like, it
Hmm.
still didn't really land until God, like, intervened and came
Hmm.
into your heart and set that message into your heart for you to fully receive it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting because as I look back, I do think it was communicated to me, but what and my mom was amazing and did the best that she could, but she wasn't given a lot of tools as a kid. Her parents didn't really communicate much with her. They never talked to her about sex or anything like that, and they didn't know Jesus. And so it was a very kind of similar to what I had grown up with was just the Sunday Catholic. She was going to Catholic services where they didn't really even talk about anything. They just read things off.
Yeah.
Um, and so she always told me don't have sex, but didn't really tell me why until it was like it was so late.
Yeah.
And I think that that was a big part. So, yes, kind of going backwards, when I was 13, I started spending time with some friends who were not the best examples. And that I'm like, let me teach the lessons I've learned as I go through that. So that I spent time with friends who were not a good example. And the lesson I've learned from that is that I will help my children choose their friends. I will not control that. I will not be a dictator, but I will step in and be a parent when I see that there are friends who are helping to lead them astray or who are not going in the right direction. Because I do wish that would have been done for me, though I probably would have despised my parents for getting rid of those friends.
Yeah.
The trajectory of my life would have been so different. And so when I started spending time with those friends, that's when we started drinking. And now I look at 13-year-olds, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're a baby. Like you're so little. And I'm like, I'm an adult.
Yeah. Me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And so I was going to parties with these guys. There's this group of guys that were real trouble, in and out of jail trouble. But we thought that because they were older, they were so cool. And we started spending time with them. And there were instances I remember, I don't know why, I've never actually talked about this, but I remember one time I was at this party and there was one boy I really liked and he was showing interest to someone else, but I started drinking. It was the first time I'd ever had anything to drink. And I was lying on the floor with one of my friends and one of these guys came up and he started like licking my ear. Like he was like, I was laying on my stomach and he was on my back and started like licking my ear. And I was pretty drunk at the time. And I remember hearing voices of like, be careful, she's only 13, because this guy, I'm pretty sure, was like probably 19 years old. And I didn't know like what is he doing? I had no idea. I was like, what is this? Like, and I didn't know it was supposed to be sexual. I didn't know what the goal was. And some people will be like, yeah, right. But we didn't have social media at that time. Like nothing was talked about in my life. So from that point on, I think that it just progressed. And then when I was 14, I went to a party and I was a virgin and I was drinking with one of my friends and somebody that I knew, like a family friend, came up to me, started talking to me and was like, "Hey, it's loud. Like let's go in this room." We were both flirty, very flirty. Um and then he was like, "Actually, this door like doesn't lock. Let's go into this room." And it should have been a warning sign for me. And so we go in and I'm very open about this because I've talked about it so much. I think some people are like, wow, she's so cold about what happened, but I've been communicating about this for about 8 years now. So it's something that God has really healed in my heart.
Mm.
But he took me in and locked the door. And I told him multiple times, like, I am a virgin. I am not, because we were kissing and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to do anything. And he got very aggressive with me, put his hand over my mouth. I was in a skirt, like, kind of ripped my underwear and had his way. And got up and was basically told me he was going to meet another girl that I knew, and like just kind of like looked at me with pure disgust and disdain, and I'm like tears flowing down my face. And so I I think it was like on top of feeling completely violated and ashamed and confused, there was this level of like, was that like, even though this is so hard to communicate, even though you did that and though I didn't want it, was it still not enough for you that you have to, like, was I still not good enough that you have to go be with another girl? Not that I wanted to be that for him, but
Yeah.
I felt not good enough. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to say,
No,
like, put into words.
absolutely, and it's crazy, like, as you're saying this, I'm, remembering instances that I had that were very
Mhm.
similar to what you experienced, so
I'm
I
so
can
sorry.
yeah, I can relive, like, some of those emotions and, um, man, like, there was a guy that was very similar that treated me the same way, and alcohol was always involved, and
Hmm.
I always wanted to be enough for this guy, and I remember, like you said, that, like, look of disgust, like, he left me in this room after just yeah, like you said, having his way with me.
Hmm.
My reputation at school blowed up,
Hmm.
he was like this guy was the root of my reputation blowing up because wherever he
Hmm.
was, there I was, and I was drinking because I was so nervous and, like, shy, and I didn't know my worth or my identity, so I would always drink alcohol, to be confident enough to talk to him, and then terrible things would happen,
Hmm.
and yeah, like, I know that feeling, and I wanna connect this too to, like, a bit of the overachiever in
Hmm.
us, like, going back to this initial trauma, it's like, I feel like a lot of times this leads to people being, like, ultra successful because we have this root of, like, I am enough, like, I will show you I am enough, and
Hmm.
sometimes it can be a good thing because it does lead to all of this, success, but then
Hmm.
there's still so much healing, that has to be done deep
Hmm.
down from that stuff too, so I don't know if you can relate to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great connection. And first of all, I'm just so sorry that that happened to you because I know how much it plays into everything. And I want to answer your question kind of about how it affected my marriage as well.
Mhm.
But yes, I think that there have been a lot of moments where I've realized that so much of what happened impacted the way I viewed myself. I viewed my relationships with my family. I viewed everything because there was that level of rejection. But after that point, I did just start sleeping around because, and I don't say sleeping around, it was more like any boyfriend who was even slightly interested. I felt in order for him to stay, in order for me to keep you and not be alone, I have to sleep with you.
Yep.
And I vividly remember sleeping with these guys and immediately after, and even during, like not getting any satisfaction from it,
Yeah.
not feeling like we're teenagers, nobody knows what they're doing. But then, like, also just crying after or like tearing up or just feeling disgusting. And like, I would have these moments where I felt like I just need to take a shower. Like, I just want to wash this off of me. But I'm like confused because isn't this a beautiful thing? Isn't this something that's supposed to be sweet? But it wasn't with the right person. I'm force fitting these men like broken puzzle pieces to fit into my life when I knew they weren't long term. And even there was an engaged, I had a near engagement with somebody, and he ended up cheating on me right before he proposed, and I found out about it. But even then, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be with this guy forever." Like, if we slept together, it wouldn't be a big deal. But God showed me there was a reason I didn't sleep with him because it wasn't for sure. And I think that we just always think, well, I need to know what it's gonna be like, and I need to sleep with this person. But my husband and I did not sleep together before marriage. We fought. It was really hard for me as somebody who like needs that validation because I'm like, you don't love me. Like just something, just do something. Like, and he was
Yeah,
like, no, like I honor you. I
wow.
honor God. I know you don't want this. I know you think you want this, but it's not what you want. And it will be amazing. And I mean, I will say, like, my sex life with Jesse, just to all the girls who feel like, oh, I need to sleep with them before or
Yeah.
whatever, is the best. Like, our intimacy is freaking phenomenal. And we didn't do anything beforehand. And a lot of that is just like our friendship and our communication and trusting God with our marriage.